Forum Youth and Community-Based Organization. This session is led by the Global Landscapes Forum. And for the last 4 days, we've had about our work as CIFOR-ICRAF in addressing inclusivity gaps and inequalities amongst the communities we work with. And I have no doubt that we've taken the time to reflect on some of these key issues and ways of addressing them in our day-to-day work. So in this session, we're going to hear about the work Global Landscapes Forum carries out together with the young people and local communities through our Restoration Stewards and GLFX project. We will also hear about how science, indigenous knowledge, and action can be linked to catalyze just transformations and thriving landscapes. And I'm sure we're all wondering what are Restoration Stewards in the GLFX chapter and what do they do? And I take this opportunity to now invite Anna Bushi, our GLF Community and Action Program Manager, who will tell us more about the Restoration Stewards Program and the GLFX chapters. Over to you, Anna.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Hello. From here in Bogor, hello to everyone in Nairobi. Nice to see you. And hello to everyone online. Indeed, as John and CK mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit more about our community and action programs. So the GLFX community-based chapters and the Restoration Stewards program. But those programs throughout the past years have achieved a lot of attention from global media, partners, donors, and now we really want to bring these. We really wanted to bring this today to discuss together with everyone here. How can we as CIFOR-ICRAF and GLF work more closely together to bridge, to even more strongly bridge the local action and local practices with scientific knowledge? And even how can we challenge and reimagine global narratives? So if we can go to the next slide. Can I change slides? Great, thank you. Let's see. Great, wonderful. So this is the map of our Restoration Stewards and GLFX chapters. As you can see, we have we work with partners from a bit everywhere around Africa, Asia and the Pacific, and Latin America and the Caribbean. And those programs started around 3 years ago. And the difference between the two programs. So first of all, the Restoration Stewards program is targeting young people, young restorers between 18 and 35 years old. And the GLFX program is targeting local environmental organizations that are already doing something on the ground, that are already leading action on the ground to bring more sustainable changes in their landscape. So with both programs, what we want to do is to enhance, support, and highlight the action that is indeed already happening on the ground. We want to support it and highlight it with our global platform, with our network of charter members, and with our mentorship programs as well. So when we started those programs, what were we thinking about? What were our assumptions? Why did we start those programs? What was in our mind? First of all, we started those programs thinking that there are already people out there leading action on the ground, that there are already a lot of projects going on the ground, and that there are amazing young people, passionate, who want and are ready to take charge and lead to the change in their landscape. We started those programs thinking that we wanted we wanted to create something that was inclusive and diverse in terms of gender, in terms of intergenerational, in terms of including indigenous and local people, in terms of languages and cultures as well. We started those programs thinking that we are partnering with the organizations that we work with, and we are not here to be the experts, but we are here to support filling any gaps, any needs that the projects that we work with have, and acknowledging that the projects that we work with, the people that run those projects are already the experts, and we are there just to support with the knowledge and the scientific research that also the institution is doing. Last but not least, we started this program thinking that to scale and to support restoration stewards and chapters and actions that is already happening on the ground, we could scale it through mentorship, which John already mentioned before is one of the most important and successful part of our program. We could scale it with funding, we could scale it with capacity development, and we could scale it with global spotlighting, the amazing work that that already a lot of people around the world are doing. So indeed, through those main activities and opportunities that we already have achieved quite some results, or better, the restoration stewards and the chapters have. Indeed, with the global spotlight that through the GLF platform we can support our stewards and chapters with, many different stewards and chapters already had different opportunities. Like, for example, Eka, she was here a few days ago as well, and she was contacted by the BBC to create a documentary after they saw her in the Restoration Stewards website, the GLF website. Annalise, she went to the World Forest Congress. Camille, that we will hear from later on as well, she got additional funding through our capacity development and through our funding and through our mentorship. We also can see some of the achievements through the second picture on the top. This is Charity Lanoy, a young Maasai woman from Kenya, and that's the restoration site that she worked on for the Restoration Steward program. And last but not least, we have figure, because we've been told that through the simple affiliation, through the simple being affiliated with the GLF, those organizations, those local projects get a lot more partnerships with local stakeholders. So simply by being affiliated by the GLF, a lot of different groups and media, women groups, community groups around the landscape actually want to create more partnerships with them. So now I'm gonna let a brief video speak for me. This video will show a little bit more about what our chapters are doing on the ground. It'll give a bit more of an idea of what being a chapter means. Vito, over to you.
La Red de Restauración de la Costa Sur es un grupo de instituciones, de empresas, de personas, de comunidades que se decidieron integrar en una red para fortalecer el tema de restauración. La iniciativa nace a raíz de lo que estaba pasando en su momento, en el año 2016, 2015, en que en esos años y en unos años anteriores pues nacía un reto a nivel mundial, que era el reto de Bonn, que mandaba a restaurar el planeta. Es por ello que en Guatemala, desde 2012, por ejemplo, se vino trabajando la mesa de restauración del paisaje forestal a nivel nacional.
La red está conformada por el sector privado. Tenemos al sector azucarero, tenemos al sector productivo de banano, tenemos a municipalidades, tenemos a entidades del gobierno como INAV, el medio ambiente, MAGA, tenemos al sector comunitario, hay muchos comunitarios, líderes comunitarios trabajando en la red, tenemos el sector municipal también, hay municipalidades que envían a sus personeros, principalmente de las unidades de gestión ambiental, para que participen en esta red, y el principal líder de la red pues es ICC y de la mano con INAV.
Dentro de las acciones de la red de restauración está desde la parte operativa, digamos netamente acciones en campo que van desde la construcción de viveros o elaboración de viveros, de que con la producción de planta, la recolección de semilla, identificación de semilla nativa, llegando a llevar a la planta a suelo definitivo. y ahí entramos ya a restaurar, por ejemplo, bosques de ribera, o llamados bosques de galería, restaurar ecosistemas manglares, pero también la red de restauración hace un trabajo muy fuerte de capacitación. Está constantemente buscando espacios que permitan desarrollar capacidades. A nivel, estas capacitaciones no solo impactan a nivel regional, sino a nivel nacional, ¿verdad? Actualmente se lleva un diplomado de restauración donde tenemos participación obviamente de actores de la Costa Sur, pero también a nivel nacional, y probablemente tenemos actores a nivel internacional.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Can I go? I don't know. Okay. Am I good to go? Sorry, I just see on mute. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Vito. This was indeed one of our chapter from South Coast Guatemala, a chapter with which we are also strongly collaborating with IUFRO. Now, just moving ahead, what are the lessons that we have learned so far? And we focus these presentations specifically on our lessons learned on equity and inclusion specifically, of course. So the first one is about funding. Something really important that we have understood is that whenever there is the possibility indeed to create opportunities for funding for projects on the ground, it's important to include, to have a flexible budget, a budget that allows the people who are implementing the projects on the ground to even include resources for the actual leaders of these programs, as well as for administrative processes, which we have understood are really, really heavy sometimes in some countries, or even simply the flexibility to include in the budget the currency exchange. But also the second point is gender. Right? Yes, gender. We have understood that we did want to create a program that indeed has a gender balance in our projects, but we figured that not all landscapes have at least 50-50 gender balance as a starting point. There are already a lot of, there are still a lot of places around the world in which the environmental sector is quite strongly men-dominated. And in those places, it's not as simple to create gender diverse and gender inclusive projects indeed. And the last one is languages. Well, the one before the last one is languages. So the importance of, to have a program that is really inclusive, we need to have a system in place that allows different languages, that allows opportunities in different languages, to be able to give the opportunities in the same way to different programs. Last but not least, care. So this is something that we really truly believe on. If there is not care, if there is not trust, if there is not a good relationship between who implements the program and the organization that is supporting those programs, they cannot be as successful as we wish. Now, the way forward. Looking ahead, we have identified different ways in which we could collaborate more. So internally, we simply should talk more between each other. We should exchange knowledge. We should exchange what we're doing in terms of programs on the ground from CIFOR-ICRAF, those restoration stewards and chapters programs. We should really simply talk more and exchange more knowledge about them. We want to understand more how to measure impact and to present impact. And we also want to share about the opportunity to have chapters as kind of a long-term vision for programs that are already existing. I'm not going to go through all the activities. Those are examples of all the different things that we could be working on, and just simply by being here this week, a lot of other things have come up. So it would be interesting to see as well what kind of activities we could be doing together. And last but not least, equity. So we need to reflect on how can we ensure diversity, like I was mentioning before about gender diversity, but for not imposing ourselves that this is something that needs to happen. And we need to reflect on global narratives. We need to reflect on how can we challenge the systemic injustice that are putting the burden over the people who are mostly suffering from the climate crisis. Now, this is just a final overview of the map. Once again, just to remind everyone that these are the places where we currently are working with chapters and stewards. So just make a mental picture of this map, and let's further connect on how we can collaborate, whether you're leading any projects in any of those countries. Now I would like to leave the floor to my colleague, Irene Sacchellari, to lead a conversation with Francis Camille Rivera, who was the restoration steward back in 2021, and her amazing mentor, Rupesh Vomia, who will join us from Bogor here. Thank you so much, everyone. And Irene, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for this excellent presentation. I wonder if also Camille could come on stage. Maybe the tech team could help us bring her on and pin her video as well. Francis Camille Rivera, I can see. Camille, if you want to unmute just for the tech team to see you and pin you. And
yes.
hi. Wonderful. And then just to confirm if Rupesh is also ready to start and has a mic over there in Bogor. Can someone confirm? Wonderful. Thank you so much. Then very much welcome, Camille, and very much welcome, Rupesh. It's wonderful to have you here, and thank you for your patience with us today. Hope you're all enjoying the session so far, and let's get straight to the point. And Camille, I'll start with you. I'd love to hear from you in a nutshell. How has the Global Landscapes Forum and its community and action programs have supported and collaborated with you so far?
Thank you, Irene. Hello to everyone in Bogor and in Nairobi. Hello to Anna and my mentor Rupesh on the ground. I hope everyone is good. Yeah, so when I learned about the Global Landscapes Forum, I really love its dedication of connecting, sharing, learning, and acting for the planet and for the people. And since our group was the first cohort for the restoration stewards back in 2021, and now we became a GLFX chapter Mindanao in the Philippines, I want to share that the knowledge, the innovative tools, and the scientific methodologies from GLF, from CIFOR, from ICRAF has helped us in shaping our restoration project to become more evidence and more scientific-based approach. And I feel that the soft skills that the GLF program has created for their stewards and for the chapters influenced our personal growth and how we deal with communities and even the growth of the team as well. And I think GLF and its values with how they implement their programs have shaped my understanding in the value of marrying scientific and cultural context, which led to having that voice in leading the projects. And talking about scaling from John earlier, so when I started the GLF restoration steward, I was training 25 members when I started, and now I was able to train 200 community members and counting. So this is where I see GLF has amplified our voice in order to get more support and funding up until now. And ever since that, I've acquired 2 more grants after the program, including the funding from the National Geographic, in which I wouldn't be able to be where I am right now without the GLF seeing and believing in my capacity to mobilize communities and the restoration efforts that we do.
Thank you, Camille. It's always sincerely sentimental to hear you speak, because it's indeed wonderful to see you grow. We've been knowing each other for 3 years. I'm also indeed a bit emotional now, because it's really sweet to hear from you. Thank you so much for your kind words. And now, Rupesh, off to you. We know from Camille that you have been an amazing mentor for her, and she also just said how important it was to have you by her side during her program, but also after that. So can you share with us what is your experience as a mentor for the Restoration Stewards program, and how do you think that this type of mentorship programs can support balancing what Camille also mentioned, scientific expertise with on-the-ground cultural knowledge, people's needs, and of course, self-determination. Up to you, Rupesh.
Thank you. So I would just like to say that I'm also very pleased and would like to have a round of applause for all the things that Camille have since done and how GLF has sort of done what it intended to do. I maybe have played a little bit of small role in that, but this is, you have now heard and seen, it was very easy for me because Camille came with a lot of energy, ideas. She already was doing things and things that from a CIFOR standpoint or from the impacts that we want to make on ground, Camille already had a lot of these pieces, building blocks. So it wasn't that difficult. Personal experience, if I can start with a little joke that we say in India, is that if you don't want to feel or old, you hang out with young people. So these mentorship programs help you to, so we are all young at heart, but these really energize you, interacting with them, hearing. And then in light of COVID pandemic, see, this program started at 2021. So maybe it was a little bit of selfish interest in my point to feel connected with people beyond the four walls in the house. And we were thinking of working in Philippines, and Camille is from Philippines. So it kind of just came together very organically, and we hit it off. We had discussion. It never felt like a burden or some additional task on my time, and it was a learning experience altogether. So my experience personally, as well as organizationally, as you have already seen all the good things he has achieved, done, and moved to become a chapter, I think this is a very good success story and kind of shows you how it's to be done and why we should invest our time, energy, both organizationally as well as personally, because we all kind of learn, and this engagement is very, very rewarding at multiple levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupesh. Thank you for your kind words as well. I'm also clapping here from my room. I see the rooms are also clapping there. Thank you so much. And yeah, indeed, I actually remember this, that you also saw it as a potential to get out of the four walls. It seems so long ago now, but it's indeed an interesting anecdote to bring up. Thank you so much. Moving back to you, Camille, and since the topic of the Science Week, equity, justice, it would be really interesting to look at the future and explore the opportunities that international organizations like CIFOR and ICRAF can have in order to strengthen inclusivity and equity, and how we can work together to ensure that any transformative action will be very, very inclusive across all landscapes. So Camille, how do you think CIFOR-ICRAF, how do you think GLF can further support people like you or the restoration stewards and chapters to ensure that we promote inclusive transformation, especially with young people and communities at the local level?
Thank you, Irene, for that question. I think GLF already supported us in so many ways. And number one, the knowledge sharing, where the chapters can share their experiences, the success stories and lessons learned, and even the opportunity to be speaking in front in any and most of the conferences and in Congress. And in this way, the work that we do can be amplified and increased visibility, and potentially can attract support and engagement to a wider audience. And I think the second one I also have seen is that capacity building that GLF has already given to a lot of chapters and the restoration stewards, such as the workshops. But I would say that could be more transformative and include more inclusive for people, is that a workshop may be in an inclusive leadership and incorporating diverse perspectives in restoration planning and implementation, even including communication strategy to shape that narrative. And then third, I can see that GLF can support in advocacy and policy, because with the network that GLF has, the stewards and the chapters can really benefit in advocating for these inclusive policies and practices, not just in local level, but also in regional and national level. And we really needed that guidance in policy engagement to transform, landscape behavior in our areas, and learning evidence-based research, and just amplifying the voices of stewards and chapters through targeted advocacy campaigns. And as what Rupesh said, we're young and like, you know, we have that passion, but without the GLF network and the GLF network and your experience to policy, we really needed that guidance. So I think that is the way where we can work towards an inclusive transformation of landscapes.
Thank you, Camille, for this comments, all noted. And it's also wonderful for me to say how spot on this is, as you know, in GLF we've also seen similar things coming up with the discussions with other restoration stewards and chapters, and also experts from different platforms. So I can promise there is something wonderful being prepared. I can already maybe say the word restoration curriculum. You already listened to Cora's name before, and there are other people involved like Kim and Varun, but I'll let these people speak when they are ready later this year and the years to come. But this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Then moving back to Rupesh, I would like to also invite maybe people in the room in case they also want to answer questions, this question, or like maybe share in the chat. But first, let's hear from Rupesh. What are some collaborative opportunities you can see between the programs and other CIFOR-ICRAF projects? So as a scientist in these research centers yourself, I'd love to hear from you what you think. Off to you, Rupesh.
Thank you, Agni. So I'll like to start off what John mentioned. We talk about exit strategies in our projects. It's many donors even want it to be mentioned. So I could really immediately think of this could be something like whether at the end of the project we have been working in a landscape or in an area, is there a potential to be follow same kind of idea of having a chapter? Can those activities be self-sustaining through some youth engagement, community partnership? Can it sustain when we as a scientist or as an organization not even in the landscape? So that could be one way or one approach we could think. Second thing I feel like important collaboration that could happen is that how we already have a lot of students working as interns or PhD scholars, and they are very hardworking, diligent people. But at the same time, they may get say a page out of a leaf of these leaders, stewards who bring a lot of passion and drive and are often through training are very vocal. So it's all about communication. And I think if there is a possibility of merging those, you know, all the skills that we have, the energy we have in the organization, and learn from each other, kind of hit it off and bring to a sort of more advanced, more forward, more visible. I think that could be a good way to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupesh. That's great. And I'm curious, of course, to learn more about all these amazing students and interns you're referring to, and everyone else. Anna, since you're also in the room, I'm wondering if there is someone from the Bogo room that wants to also respond in the same question, if they see any opportunities for further collaboration with CIFOR-ICRAF. If not, it's also okay, but
yeah.
Oh, I see you standing up.
We actually
Okay.
have one of our incredible restoration steward here with us in the room, Sumarni Laman. Hi, Sumarni. Also from the same year as Camille. So
Hi,
Camille and
Sumarni.
Sumarni know each other. Over to you, Sumarni.
Hi, Camille. Nice to see you online again, and Erini. Okay, the things that I also experienced. My name is Mani, Restoration Steward. Also, like Camille, 2021, and now GLF X chapters, Kalimantan. I also learned from my mentors, and I see, like, I hope in the future, the more collaboration is about how we can monitor and evaluate our projects. Like, for example, we do a restoration effort, right? We plant tree, but then in the end of the year, we wanted to deliver to others how success our work is, but then we have to provide data, right? And then that also the limitations of youth organizations, because we don't have the resources and tool. And I do believe in CIFOR-ICRAF, you have a lot of research and resources about that. So that's one aspect of the how to deliver this, like the kind of collaboration. And the second, during 1 week here in the science week, I learned a lot about sustainable projects in terms of livelihood, and that also things that now we see as a big potential to make the organization and community sustainable. It's like, you know, the funding is quite it's a seed funding, but to make the movement sustainable, we have to change this, move this forward into how to make the effort, the small little thing that we do become sustainable and can provide livelihood. And I hear a lot of research regarding the business model in restorations, and if CIFOR-ICRAF can collaborate and makes the youth or youth organizations or the GLF chapters as an actors on the grounds that can also amplify what they do and copy that, or even sharing resources, this will be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumarni. I see Anna is sitting back. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's also super beautiful to see you there as well. I'm glad you're having a wonderful time. And indeed, I think it's quite important to explore ways that we can further learn from the restoration stewards that have shown so much success so far in the chapters, and see how this can be replicated on a national level and in other landscapes on similar regions. Beautiful. Then moving on to the next question. And I have to say that this is a question that was really inspired by many conversations, not just with stewards, but also with people from different networks, with the Youth in Landscapes Initiative people. So I hope you enjoy the answers and the answer and the question as much as we do. I'll also invite people online to maybe add ideas on the chat about this question. And I'd love to go to the other side of the world in Nairobi to find someone for an in-person intervention if there is one. But first, Camille, of course. So our thinking based on all this conversation is that it is important that any policy, any finance strategy, any action to basically tackle the environmental crisis in any of its elements at the local level must definitely take into consideration the injustices that have been generated by the history of colonialism, the economic inequality, the nature of how the climate crisis is currently affecting disproportionately landscapes and communities in the global south. And at the same time, these are the communities that have the less resources to mitigate and adapt to the climate crisis. But we also see that these communities are the ones that are taking the leadership to basically restore their landscapes and address the climate crisis, either by youth or by local communities. People that are really affected by this crisis to also show the biggest leadership. So now the question is, how can programs like the Restoration Stewards and the chapters continue supporting the work led by youth and local communities and incredible people in the global south and across the globe without contributing to an unfair narrative that puts the responsibility of saving the world on the same shoulders of the people that suffer the most from the consequences of the crisis? Camille, you're the first one that has to answer to this very big question.
Yeah, thank you, Irene. Yes, I've also experienced this question also in another conference, but I think I realized that I think there are three things that I was thinking with this question, and the first thing is that we need to involve the media and the journalists who can help shape that unfair narrative of putting that responsibility to the shoulders of those suffering the consequences. And I believe that programs like the Restoration Stewards and chapters are really amazing and amplifying that voice through, involving media and communication. And it can lead to shaping policies in the local and regional level. And I've also said this to you, and I also want to point out that it doesn't feel pressure because I love what I do. And I see this as my path, my legacy, and I agree, we are suffering from the global consequences. But without us, without this program, without the Restoration Stewards, without the chapter, who will lead the action, right? No one without that. And second, I want to also point out that we also need to involve I think, the global north through voicing out the need to change that policy in reducing emissions. I can see this can be strongly achieved by the global north, especially that those big corporations, those big countries, they have the high emissions and they are located in those areas. And I think in the end, we really needed that collaboration. And lastly, speaking of collaboration, it's needed for more inclusive transformation. So rather than imposing solutions or taking a top-down approach, the restoration stewards and GLFX chapters already involve the community members on the ground. I've never felt a top-down approach in those programs. And I felt that I was included in the decision-making, in the whole process of co-creation and the benefits as well. And the GLF community has just been very helpful because they really value the knowledge that we have and the experience that we have on the ground. And so I think those three things are very important, and it's time that we involve the media and the journalists to shape that and avoiding that narrative, because I feel that we still need this kind of programs.
Thank you, Camille. And as always, I really appreciate how, concretely you managed to summarize so many different things. I love how you talked about your legacy. I love how you talked about the importance of addressing the drivers and ensuring that they are also part of the discussion. And again, I appreciate your feedback and your public feedback on GLF's attempt to ensure that this is a partnership, as Anna said in the beginning. I think it's quite important to say that again. Now, traveling to Nairobi, Nasike, is someone in the room maybe that wants to share something with us on the question we asked before and we're discussing here with Camille?
Thank you very much, Erini. I think I would like to see a hand. So, and I think it's a delight that Kito is also part of the GLFX Nairobi chapter, and it would be good to hear his insights. Over to you, Kito.
Yeah, thanks, Nasike. This is like a whole family reunion, the chapters and the stewards. Thank you for having me. And so to answer your question, Irene, I'll just speak from where Camille finished speaking about speaking of the bottom-up approach. I just wanted to mention the fact that these programs can also, integrate what is already working in communities, and upscaling such programs instead of, bringing in maybe burdensome or alien solutions to the different problems that communities are facing. And, we have a term that we refer to this as in Nairobi, we call them parachute solutions, because they're like, flying into the communities, And as GLFX Nairobi, when we were given the seed funding, last year, we wanted to do different community programs. And one thing that we thought that maybe communities would need was, we thought that communities wanted maybe to have tree nurseries, but when we visited these communities, they said, no, this is not what we need. And we were able to work with them, and what they needed was maybe value addition to what they were already doing. And we were able to, they told us that we can do maybe now workshops, on how to add values to what they're doing. And that's what we were able to do. We have done, so we just concluded a workshop on waste management, and we trained various youth and who are already doing amazing things using this knowledge, and that is what they needed. And this is actually going to contribute also to the sustainability of these programs, of which someone had mentioned earlier. And another thing that I would want to also share is that these programs, can work to create partnerships and advocate for policies that address the historical, and the ongoing injustices that have contributed to the environmental crisis. And so just to say that last year during the GLF climate, as GLFX Nairobi, we were able to partner with the International Land Commission to organize a session on land rights, and, just amplifying voices and also sharing opportunities of how, women and youth can do restoration, despite the fact that they face a lot of issues when it comes to land issues. And lastly, what I would want to share is also amplifying local voices and narratives. And who else maybe can be an example for this except for the stewards, but also as GLF Nairobi during the GLF Africa and the other activities, we were able to also get a new partner, the Revealing Africa, of which has really given us a voice, to amplify our voice during the different conferences, and also getting new partners whom we're able to do our different activities. And yeah, so I can keep on talking and talking, but I'll stop there and I'll pass it on back to you, Nasike.
Thank you very much, too. If there's anybody else in the room that would like to give a comment or contribute to the discussion, we're happy to take that online. Anybody else? All right, I see no hand. And then in that case, Irini, we can proceed.
Thank you, Nasike, and thank you, Kiptu. And
sorry, Irini, there's a hand.
Sorry.
There's a hand.
Sure.
I think mine is a question. I don't know whether it's I can ask or wait.
Of course.
Okay.
Just let us know who you are and maybe to whom would you like to direct the question.
Okay, my name is Douglas Bwire. I'm based here at CIFOR-ICRAF, Nairobi, part of the CIFOR-ICRAF GW team. My question is, we have projects that we're implementing with partners and committees on the ground. They might not necessarily be directly doing some restoration activity, but have an aspect that contributes to that. So how can GLF, we have an opportunity within GLF, and if it's there, what is it that we can tap into, highlight some of these initiatives that we're doing? Because we get some questions even from partners that we're working with.
What a good boy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you have a specific person in mind before you leave the mic? Someone from the panel, like Anna, maybe, that you would like to listen from, or should I direct it to Anna myself?
Maybe any person from the panel can ask.
Wonderful. Thank you. Then Anna, I think this is a question for you. Oh, we cannot hear you. No, we can still not hear you. We're facing some technical difficulties there.
Can you hear me now?
Wonderful.
Okay, wonderful. That is a really good question, and that's also a question I wish we to answer together, really to understand how can we indeed collaborate more toward the strengths that the GLF has itself with the global platform and with all our incredible charter members as well, and the programs that as well are already led by CIFOR-ICRAF. I would say one of the first things is what I mentioned also earlier in the presentation. So talk more with each other. So let's definitely use this as an opportunity for our kind of, we've already been talking a lot with different, of course, scientists and with different programs through the mentorship part of our restoration stewards. But I would say, let's bring this one step forward as well, and let's see how the chapters and the restoration stewards programs can be helpful to the projects that CIFOR-ICRAF has on the ground, and the other way around. So I know this is not really an answer to your question, but my answer would be let's connect and let's talk more, and let's use this as an opportunity to get us started and strengthen what's already there. Thank you. Back to you, Irini.
Thank you, Anna. I think it's a good starting for a conversation, though. It sounded like an invitation, so I assume we should start sharing our email cards around. Thank you for your question, and I think Nasike, we are just for the sake of time, it's nice if we move on. I have just one final quick question for both Rupesh and Camille, and I'd like to start with Rupesh. And if you can answer very, very briefly, what is the #1 action, according to you, Rupesh, that institutions like CIFOR-ICRAF should take to improve the way we work with communities and to ensure that local perspectives and needs are appropriately addressed? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
To be very brief, I would say explore, identify, and establish connection. Because connection is what we want to try to understand, and it transcends if you are empathetically, sympathetically connected, whether it's different language or gender or something. If you are connected at that level, organic level, then you would have open ears and eyes and ability to see the problems and try to work together. In what we have been talking throughout this entire week is try to explore that collection through Partners Day, through working through these collaborative spaces of thinking about whether it's CIFOR-ICRAF or our donors or things. So I think most important thing is to just again try to find where is the connection, where are the commonalities, and where do we lack, and how do we work through the plurality of these ideas towards a common goal.
Thank you, Rupesh. You also mentioned one of my favorite words, plurality. It's really important to understand that no solution fits everything. Camille, would you like to also briefly share your views on that?
Thank you. I think I really like to just add on what Rupesh said. I think, when we start with that connection, I think it really builds to that long-term commitment. And I feel that CIFOR and GLF can really help establish a long-term commitment with its chapters, with its restoration stewards, because it can build community engagement rather than short-term project-based interactions. So this will really help us together in fostering ongoing dialogue, as what Rupesh said, always be open, connected, talking, communication, because we then can ensure that there is sustainability in funding and there is sustainability in addressing those evolving issues and needs of on the ground and the people working in local and national level.
Beautiful, Camille, as always. Thank you so much. Rupesh and Camille and Rupesh, it's been a real pleasure holding this space for you. Now I would like to pass it on to Nasike to close us off for the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irini. Thank you, Rupesh, and thank you, Camille. Thank you, Kito, and thank you as well, Douglas. So it has been delightful hearing from all of you about the work that the restoration stewards are doing and the chapters and what they do in collaboration with GLF. But before I hand it over to Dr. Elian to conclude this session, I would like to take just 2 minutes of your time. I know it's lunch hour in Nairobi and maybe our stomachs are reminding us that it's time to fill them. I want to talk about just 2 upcoming events from GLF. I will start with the Africa Chapter Summit. And this Africa Chapter Summit will bring together chapters across Africa to learn, connect, and share knowledge with each other, especially on the work they've been doing in Africa with the support of the Robert Bosch Foundation. So the Africa Chapter Summit will be held in Nairobi here on campus from the 19th of June to the 21st of June. And I take this opportunity to welcome all of you who are in this room here and who are in Bogor to interact with the chapters, to open your doors to them, should they have any scientific questions that are likely to guide and build their work. Lastly, GLF will be hosting GLF Nairobi on the 11th and the 12th of October this year on this campus again. So the first day of GLF Nairobi will be focused on Africa and how the continent can secure its food future through land rights and sovereign food solutions. And the second day will be focused on climate. And we also invite you to join us in crafting a survival guide for a planet in crisis and set the stage for a fairer world ahead of the 2023 UN Climate Change Conference, COP28 in Dubai. So you may be wondering, why should you be part of GLF Nairobi? We as GLF envision that this hybrid conference is going to gather key stakeholders who will help us shape the global conversation ahead of the UN Climate Conference in Dubai. And we also see this as an opportunity for all of us to call to action on crucial issues affecting humans, food systems, biodiversity, and the planet. So should you have any question, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions regarding GLF Nairobi and the Africa Chapter Summit. And now I would like to end this session by inviting our new CIFOR-ICRAF CEO and ICRAF Director General, Dr. Elian, to give us some concluding remarks. Thank you very much.
So thank you, everyone. This has been a really exciting session. One of the things we had earlier was a session with early career scientists looking at how do we scale opportunities for young people. I think this session was great because it was really focused on what is it we're doing to ensure that young people's energy is catalyzed towards restoration. And I think catalyzing this energy through GLF is very powerful because GLF is a community that's reaching millions of people around the world. And also, it's just very exciting to hear Camille's story and to see how she's become a National Geographic's fellow. So it's also how can being involved with GLF create new opportunities for young people to grow their leadership, grow their capacity to engage in the world and to communicate their message. What we know today is there are many of us on the planet who understand the issues related to climate change, but we also know that there's still climate deniers on the planet. And so it's really critical that everybody of us who gets it gets connected. And this is where fragmentation can really be a powerful tool for the deniers. And for us, it's how do we accelerate building the needed communities of practice that work together to scale all the wonderful work we can do for good around accelerating restoration. We know that it's urgent, and we know that we need every single person on the planet to move forward with this. So working with youth through communities is a very powerful way of scaling this work, bringing about behavioral change, bringing about mindset change, and really bringing more people forward to scale the work we're doing with trees, with climate, with food security around the world. So I really just want to say thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you for the example of Camille. Thank you for the mentorship that she received, because really this idea of how do we all catalyze in the energy of youth. We know that young people in the global south represent an amazing force, and they are the leaders for tomorrow. And it's important for us, for older generations, to really create the enabling environment for their leadership. And it's not about burdening them, but it's really about facilitating and growing their leadership and using our collective wisdom to scale the collective work we can all do to restore the planet, to restoring nature, and to ensure that reforestation and food security happen in the most sustainable and harmonious way, with all our intelligence, bringing forward all our collective knowledge. So thank you very much for everybody for participating, and I look forward to interacting with you here in Nairobi and everywhere else virtually for all future GLF events. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elian. And so as we end this session, I will leave you with a short video from us at GLF. This video will explain the essence of our work and why you should join us for GLF Nairobi. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Have a good rest of your day and a good evening. Bye.
Thank you.